The HOA rerouted a creek to flood my land. It ended up flooding hers. For 20 years, the creek running through my ranch did exactly what it always done. Water my cattle, kept the pasture green, never caused a problem for anybody. Then one Monday morning, checking fences, I found fresh bulldozer tracks cutting through the grass. Heavy equipment had come through before sunrise, and somebody was already digging a new channel along the creek bed. I drove straight over and found Karen Whitmore, the HOA president, standing there directing contractors like she owned the ground under their boots. She said they were just improving drainage for the subdivision nearby. I asked to see the permits for work happening on my property. She brushed it off and told me not to interfere. Something about that didn't sit right. I went home and pulled together every survey, deed, and aerial photo I had, walked the creek myself, photographed every marker, mapped out exactly where the new digging crossed onto my land. It was clear the fresh channel cut straight into ranch property. And worse, the original creek had been partially blocked, which meant any future stormwater would get pushed toward my pasture instead of spreading out the way it naturally always had. I called the county and asked for an independent inspection. A few days later, heavy rain hit. What had always been a gentle, easy creek turned into a fast-moving stream. And instead of following its old path, muddy water tore straight through that new channel. Within hours, my lower pasture disappeared under brown floodwater. I spent that evening moving cattle to higher ground before things got worse. The animals made out fine, but acres of grazing land went under. I photographed and filmed all of it, because evidence would matter a lot more than yelling at anybody. Deputy Mason came out the next morning, photographed the damaged creek bank, and told everyone to leave things alone until professionals could take a look. That afternoon, an independent civil engineer surveyed both properties with GPS gear and historical maps, comparing the old creek path to the new excavation. He explained the altered routes squeeze water into a much narrower space. Fine on a normal day. Dangerous the moment a real storm hit. Karen kept telling the HOA the project was helping the neighborhood. At the next meeting, she waved off every concern, claiming my ranch had always flooded seasonally anyway. The engineer's report said otherwise. Decades of aerial photos showed that creek flowing safely, right up until someone dug into it. Before anything got fixed, another big storm rolled through. This time it wasn't just my pasture. Branches, mud, and debris piled up inside that artificial channel, creating a bottleneck that slowed everything down. Water backed up behind it until it had nowhere left to go but sideways, spilling into nearby properties. The neighborhood this whole project was supposed to protect ended up getting hit first. Karen's own house, sitting right near the modified drainage area, had water pooling around parts of the foundation. Structural engineers came out and found fresh movement in the foundation from all that saturated soil. Nobody said the house was collapsing, but they made it clear this needed attention fast. Around the same time, I pulled every public record tied to that drainage project. Permit applications, engineering reviews, inspection reports. Several approvals were still incomplete the day construction actually started. Weeks later, the county held a public meeting and laid it out with surveys, photos, and drainage models. The altered creek had redirected water in a way that made flooding worse, not better, right when it mattered most. Nobody argued the point. Water had simply taken the path it was always going to take, and that artificial channel was never built to handle a real storm. Emergency crews got hired to restore the creek to its original path. Excavators pulled out the diversion, while engineers supervised every step. Once the natural channel reopened, water spread out safely again instead of squeezing through a bottleneck. Over the following weeks, my pasture drained, fresh grass came back, fences got fixed, and the cattle went back to grazing like nothing had happened. The county's final report confirmed restoring the creek cut flood risk for both my ranch and the subdivision. Repairs kept going around Karen's property while specialists stabilized the foundation. At later HOA meetings, more than one board member admitted they should have listened to actual engineers before touching that drainage system in the first place. As the seasons turned, the ranch settled back to normal. Standing by that restored creek one evening, I realized this was never about winning an argument. It was about respecting property lines. trusting the people who actually know what they're doing, and understanding that nature doesn't take shortcuts kindly. The creek runs to the pasture again now. Quiet. Exactly like it did for generations before anyone decided to dig it up.